Welcome to Alfred Kazin Notes, a place where literature, ideas, and the minds of great writers come alive. Let's explore the thoughts behind the words.
Thank you. It's wonderful to be here diving into this.
It's great to have you. So I want you, and I mean the listener here, to imagine, if you will, that you hold in your hands a map.
Right.
But it's not a map to buried gold in the literal sense. It's a map to absolute profound fulfillment. It charts the exact coordinates of the life you were meant to live.
A terrifying prospect, honestly.
Exactly. Because what do most of us do? Instead of unfurling that map and setting out into the wilderness, you fold it neatly, lock it in a dark drawer, and, well, you buy a bakery.
You choose the safe route.
Yeah. You do this because you are terrified of what might actually happen if you got what you wanted. So today, we're exploring this ultimate human tragedy. Why we actively choose to ignore our destiny, and conversely, the magnificent, terrifying alchemy that occurs when we finally decide to pursue it.
It's a remarkable journey we're charting today. I mean, our mission in this deep dive is to really dissect the archetypal journey of the human soul.
Right.
We're examining a text that operates as this relentless mirror. It reflects the deep-seated desires and, frankly, the paralyzing fears that we all harbor in the quietest corners of our minds. So we're going to explore this philosophical proposition that the universe actively aids those who are courageous enough to pursue their destiny. But more importantly, we'll uncover how the true treasure we all seek is forged not at a distant destination, but within the crucible of the journey itself.
It's the alchemy of the human spirit.
Exactly. The painful, necessary process of burning away the superficial layers of our identity until only the indestructible core remains.
I mean, I understand the poetry of that proposition. It's gorgeous. But I must press you on the reality of it.
Sure.
It sounds beautiful to suggest we are all part of this grand cosmic symphony, right?
Yeah.
Where every listener, you, me, everyone out there, is handed a unique instrument to play.
A specific note in the harmony.
Right. The text implies a universal language and a universe conspiring to help us. But realistically, how are we supposed to hear our specific part, our own delicate melody, amidst the sheer, deafening cacophony of modern survival?
That's the challenge, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
When we are drowning in obligations, economic pressures, the relentless hum of the digital age, the idea of a personal legend feels almost like, I don't know, an unreachable luxury. How do we even begin to locate this spiritual map when we're just trying to keep our heads above water?
Well, that is precisely the existential tension our source material addresses right from the opening pages. And it begins to answer that question by completely subverting a foundational myth we think we already understand.
Okay.
The text doesn't open with a grand, abstract declaration of purpose. Instead, it offers this striking, almost haunting reimagining of the myth of Narcissus.
That's the Greek myth.
Right. But it asks us to look away from the boy and look at the water.
It's a brilliant subversion, really. I mean, we all know the traditional story, right?
Yeah.
Narcissus is so tragically obsessed with his own beauty that he stares into a lake, falls in, and drowns.
And a flower grows in his place.
Exactly. It's been handed down for centuries as this straightforward cautionary tale about vanity and ego.
Yeah.
But the parable in our notes takes this a step further into a profound existential inquiry.
It really does.
It says that when Narcissus drowned, the goddesses of the forest came to the lake and found it transformed into a lake of salty tears.
Which you'd think is for Narcissus.
Right. They naturally assume it's mourning the loss of the beautiful boy.
Huh.
And the lake replies, I weep for Narcissus, but I never noticed that Narcissus was beautiful. I weep because each time he knelt beside my banks, I could see in the depths of his eyes my own beauty reflected.
It is breathtaking.
It's completely mind-blowing.
Because it dismantles the barrier between the subject and the object. If we elevate this, and connect it to the bigger picture of the human condition, what does it actually mean for us?
Right. What's the takeaway?
It suggests that all elements of creation are mirrors. The observer and the observed are fundamentally, inextricably one.
The lake didn't love Narcissus.
No. The lake loved itself through the existence of Narcissus. It speaks to a radical, almost terrifying interconnectedness. You, the listener, are the universe observing itself.
Wow.
Therefore, when you are seeking your destiny, you are not imposing your solitary will on a cold, indifferent, dead world. You're participating in a reciprocal dialogue with a world that reflects the deepest aspects of your own soul back to you.
So the noise I mentioned earlier, the struggle of modern life, that's not a separate entity designed to crush you.
Exactly. It's part of the reflection.
Okay, so if the world is a mirror, then our failures to act are reflections of our own internal paralysis.
Spot on.
Which leads us directly to a devastating concept introduced in the text, something the author calls the world's greatest lie.
A very heavy phrase.
It is. The lie is this, that at a certain point in our lives, we lose control of what's happening to us, and our lives become controlled by fate. Why do we so eagerly swallow this lie?
Because it is the ultimate psychological defense mechanism.
It lets us off the hook.
Exactly. The world's greatest lie is a comfortable blanket woven from self-deception. I mean, it is significantly easier to believe that some abstract, unyielding force called fate has dictated your mundane, unfulfilled life than it is to look in the mirror and accept that you chose this mediocrity out of fear.
That is a harsh truth.
It's brutal. To claim fate is responsible is to abdicate the agonizing burden of ultimate freedom. And to illustrate the anatomy of this surrender, the text offers the profound, quiet tragedy of the baker.
The baker. I feel like the baker is perhaps the most relatable and therefore the most terrifying figure in the entire text.
Absolutely. We all know a baker. We might be the baker.
Right. We're introduced to a young man who has a burning desire to travel, to understand the vastness of the world. But instead of wandering, instead of embracing the uncertainty of the open road, he decides to buy a bakery.
He rationalizes it, of course.
Always. He rationalizes this betrayal of his own soul. He tells himself he'll put money aside and eventually, when he's an old man, he'll spend a month in Africa.
Deferred living.
Exactly. He prioritizes societal approval over his true calling. Because in his society, and let's be honest, in ours too, bakers are respected.
Right. They have physical homes, they produce tangible goods, they pay taxes.
Yeah. Wanderers, dreamers, the ones who actually seek to understand the world, they're viewed with suspicion.
And the tragedy of the baker is that he sacrifices his soul's deepest, most primal yearning on the altar of social conformity.
He traded the infinite possibilities of his personal legend for the illusion of security.
And the hollow approval of strangers? I mean, he thought he was being practical. He thought he was being an adult.
But he was actually falling victim to the world's greatest lie.
He was. He let the collective expectations of society dictate his existence, convincing himself that his dream could be safely deferred. But here is the brutal truth of the human psyche. A deferred dream does not patiently wait in a state of suspended animation.
It rots.
It ferments. It turns into cynicism, regret, and a low-grade perpetual melancholy that colors the rest of a life. The baker will bake his bread, but he will taste ashes.
Wow. Which demands a moment of brutal honesty from you, the listener. Where in your own life have you chosen the bakery over the open fields?
That's the core question.
Where are you prioritizing the perceived safety of a steady paycheck or societal approval over the very thing that makes your heart beat faster? Where are you telling yourself that you'll live your true life later, when you're older, when you have enough money, when the conditions are perfect?
Because the conditions will never be perfect.
Never. Where are you succumbing to the world's greatest lie? It's a terrifying inventory to take, honestly. But recognizing your own inner baker is the only way to awaken to what our text calls the personal legend.
And we really must define this concept with absolute clarity because it is so easily misunderstood in our hyper-capitalist culture.
Right, it's not a hustle culture thing.
Not at all. A personal legend is not merely a career goal. It's not a bucket list item or a desire for fame or a metric of financial success.
Then what is it?
It is the true, indivisible mission of the soul. It is the underlying reason you are incarnated into this specific, brief, astonishing life.
That's beautiful.
The text posits a core philosophical doctrine here. When you are young, your personal legend is clear to you. Children inherently know what brings them joy. They aren't afraid to dream of the impossible.
They just do it.
Right. But as time passes, as we are socialized, this mysterious force begins to exert its gravity, attempting to convince us that our personal legend is impossible to realize.
That mysterious force is fascinating because, it doesn't usually look like a monster.
No, it looks like a friend.
It looks like common sense. It's the doubt whispered by well-meaning parents. It's the crushing weight of a daily routine. It's the voices of practical people telling you to be realistic.
Get a real job.
Exactly. It feels incredibly negative, like a headwind designed to keep you grounded. But the text flips this perception entirely, reframing the very nature of adversity.
It does, and this is where the philosophy transcends simple optimism and becomes brilliantly, ruthlessly pragmatic.
How so?
While this mysterious, seemingly negative force is actually a necessary friction, it is not there to stop you, it is there to prepare you.
Oh, wow.
It's the whetstone against which the blade of your will is sharpened. Because, and this is the crux of the text doctrine, when you truly want something, that desire did not originate in your fragile ego.
It came from somewhere else.
It originated in the soul of the universe. It is the universe attempting to express itself through you. Therefore, all the universe conspires to help you achieve it.
The universe conspires. I love that phrasing.
Yes. The friction, the doubt, the practical voices, these are just the universe's mechanisms for ensuring you possess the spiritual density and resilience required to carry the immense weight of your own destiny.
So if you quit,
If you crumble at the first sign of societal disapproval, you are simply not ready for the treasure.
I love that framework, but I want to ground it in the reality of our daily experience. Because, pursuing this destiny isn't just about staring deeply at the horizon and ignoring the ground beneath your feet.
Right. It's not escapism.
It's not an excuse to abandon your responsibilities and float away on a cloud of self-actualization. And the text provides a wonderful grounding parable about the secret of happiness to illustrate this exact tension.
The spoon of oil.
Yes. So a young boy is sent to the wisest man in the world to learn the secret of happiness. After a long journey, he arrives at this stunning, opulent palace where the wise man lives.
And he's expecting a profound lecture.
Right, but the wise man doesn't give him a lecture. Instead, he hands the boy a teaspoon containing 2 drops of oil. He tells the boy to wander the palace for 2 hours, but under one strict condition. He must not spill the oil.
It is such a profound metaphor for the human attention economy and the division of our psychic energy.
It really is. So the boy begins to walk around the palace. But he's so hyperfixated, so terrified of spilling the oil, that his eyes never leave the spoon.
He's looking down the whole time.
The whole time. After 2 hours, he returns to the wise man. The wise man asks him, "Did you see the Persian tapestries? Did you see the garden that took 10 years to create? Did you notice the beautiful parchments in my library?"
And he saw nothing?
He, ashamed, admits he saw absolutely nothing. His entire universe had shrunk to a spoon. So the wise man sends him back out, instructing him to actually look at the marvels of the palace.
Relieved, the boy explores.
Yeah, he takes in the breathtaking art, the gardens, the architecture. But when he returns to the wise man, he looks down at his hand. He has spilled the oil.
And here we arrive at the agonizing synthesis of that parable, which serves as a foundational rule for anyone pursuing their personal legend.
What's the rule?
The wise man tells the boy, "The secret of happiness is to see all the marvels of the world, but never to forget the drops of oil on the spoon."
That balance.
It is the delicate, unrelenting balance between living in the grandeur of the universe and tending to your specific personal duty.
Right, because if you only focus on the oil, your narrow goals, your daily grind, paying the rent, you miss the astonishing beauty of existence.
You become an anxious machine, much like the baker.
But if you only marvel at the castle, if you get lost in hedonism or vague spiritual wanderings without discipline, completely ignoring your fundamental responsibilities, you spill the oil. You fail your earthly duty.
You have to hold both realities simultaneously, the cosmic and the microscopic, the eternal and the immediate.
Okay, so the question becomes, how do we navigate this? How do we walk through the vast castle of life without spilling the oil?
Well, the text suggests we must learn to read what it calls the language without words, the universal language of omens.
Omens. Now, in our hyper-rational modern secular society, we've been conditioned to dismiss omens as, the province of superstition and magical thinking. But our source text elevates them, treating them as the literal architecture of destiny. They are the vernacular of the divine.
Yeah.
And interestingly, the journey toward your personal legend almost always begins with a very specific, recognizable type of omen.
Beginner's luck. The text refers to it as the principle of favorability.
We have all felt the principle of favorability.
Yeah.
It's like the universe giving you a free trial of premium software.
That's a great way to put it.
You try something entirely new, maybe a new creative pursuit or a drastic career pivot. And right out of the gate, you experience a massive, unexpected success. Everything clicks effortlessly. You feel like a genius.
But then it stops.
Right. Why does this happen? If the journey is supposed to be a crucible, why start with a free pass?
Because it is psychological bait. The universe, functioning as the collective unconscious that desires your evolution, whets your appetite with a taste of ultimate alignment.
It gives you a glimpse.
Exactly. It's a force that wants you to realize your personal legend, so it provides an early intoxicating victory to lock in your commitment. It shows you the full capabilities of your life to get you to subscribe, knowing full well that paying the actual subscription fee The years of hard work, doubt, and suffering that will inevitably follow is going to require immense endurance.
Right, because once you have tasted that initial alignment, you can never fully forget it.
No. It sustains you when the desert later tries to break you.
But the free trial always expires. The
Hmm.
beginner's luck fades, the real work begins, and you have to learn to read the world in a state of struggle.
Yes.
And the text uses incredibly visceral earthly details to describe this reading. The sudden, violent flight of a pair of hawks against the stark desert sky, the nervous, instinctual whinnying of a camel.
The environment speaks.
Yeah, and the use of Urim and Thummim, the ancient black and white stones of decision-making used to answer objective questions when one is lost. The text asks us to stop looking at the environment as a passive backdrop and to start reading it as an active, living text.
Which brings us to the profound, often misunderstood concept of intuition. The text strips away the mystical woo-woo often associated with intuition and grounds it in rigorous philosophical terms, echoing Carl Jung's theory of synchronicity.
Right, it's not magic.
No, intuition is defined not as a magical sixth sense, but as a sudden immersion of the individual soul into the universal current of life.
An immersion.
Yes. It's the visceral realization that the histories of all people and all things are deeply connected beneath the surface of conscious thought. When you experience a hunch, it's because, for a brief, illuminating second, you have dipped into the stream of the collective unconscious where everything is already connected.
Okay, I have to stop you there and challenge this framework because my rational brain is violently rejecting that.
Fair enough. Go ahead.
If everything is an omen, if the hawk flying left means something profound and my coffee cup dropping means something else, doesn't life become utterly paralyzing to interpret?
It could, yes.
How do we distinguish between a divine nudge and our own brains just suffering from epiphania? The human tendency to seek patterns in random information. If I'm trying to decode the universe like a cryptic crossword puzzle, I'm going to lose my mind.
That is a crucial pushback, and the text provides a stringent, highly practical safeguard against that very paralysis.
That's a safeguard.
Action. The safeguard is action, and the filter is the heart. You do not sit still in an armchair and try to decode the universe intellectually. You move forward.
So you have to be in motion.
Exactly.
Oh.
Omens are fundamentally directional. They respond to momentum. The text makes it explicitly clear that intuition is only valuable, and omens are only readable when tied to the active pursuit of the personal legend.
So if I'm just sitting around overthinking.
If you are wandering aimlessly, the omens are silent, or they're merely random noise. But when you're moving toward your destiny, making choices, the world becomes a dynamic map.
That makes a lot of sense.
You avoid paranoia by trusting that your heart, which is a fragment of the soul of the universe, knows how to intuitively filter the noise from the signal, but only while in motion.
Motion is the key. But the greatest enemy of motion is fear, which brings us to the true crucible of the journey and to one of the most haunting archetypes in the literature. The crystal merchant.
A truly tragic figure.
He is. This is a man who has lived his entire adult life running a fragile crystal shop on a hill. He has one great defining dream: to make the pilgrimage to Mecca. It's the pillar of his faith and the desire of his heart.
And he has the means to do it.
That's the crazy part. As the years pass, he acquires the money, he has the time, the physical path is open to him, but he adamantly refuses to go.
The crystal merchant is the psychological manifestation of our deepest self-sabotage.
Why does he refuse?
Because he is terrified that if he actually realizes his dream, he will have no reason left to live.
Wow.
He tells the wanderer explicitly that the thought of Mecca is what keeps him alive. It is what gets him through the mundane days of selling crystal on the same hill.
So he prefers the fantasy to the reality.
Yes. He prefers the idea of the dream to the reality of it. The unfulfilled dream is a comforting, warm blanket that insulates him against the unpredictability of actual fulfillment. He represents the paralyzing fear of success.
Every blessing ignored becomes a curse. That line from the text hit me like a physical blow.
It's one of the strongest lines in the work.
It perfectly diagnoses the merchant. By refusing to go to Mecca, his life becomes a prison of unfulfilled potential. His shop, his wealth, his safety, they all become symbols of his cowardice.
Because he knows better.
Exactly. He knows exactly how immense his possibilities are, and he actively, consciously chooses to ignore them out of fear of the post-fulfillment void. He's the baker but fully self-aware, which makes his stagnation infinitely sadder.
To counteract this tragedy, the text offers the hard-won wisdom of the camel driver.
I love the camel drive.
He's an incredible counterpoint. The camel driver is a man who has faced absolute objective ruin. He had an orchard, a family, a stable, respectable life. Then, in a single day, the Nile flooded and destroyed everything.
Gone.
He lost his entire livelihood to a random natural disaster. But rather than being broken by this capriciousness of fate, rather than succumbing to the world's greatest lie, he emerges with profound philosophical clarity.
What does he realize?
He teaches that fear evaporates the moment we understand that our life stories and the history of the world were written by the same hand.
The camel driver is the ultimate practitioner of Stoicism. He learns the lesson of living aggressively in the present.
Aggressively in the present, yes.
He observes that the desert tribesmen do not fear the future because they live fiercely in the immediate present moment. If you are constantly looking backward in regret, agonizing over the flood, or looking forward in anxiety, agonizing over the next disaster, you're completely missing the only reality that actually exists right now.
Philosophically, this is the immense weight of the present moment. The camel driver realizes a powerful truth. If you pay absolute attention to the present, you can improve upon it.
And if you improve the present,
What comes later will inherently be better. The future is an abstraction. The past is an illusion. The present is the singular point of power where the universe can actually be engaged and shaped. To live in fear of the future is to waste the only tool you have to change it.
but knowing that intellectually is entirely different from practicing it, because the human heart actively fights this surrender.
It does, it rebels.
There's this incredible, agonizing dialogue in the text between the wanderer and his own heart as the journey becomes more dangerous. The wanderer realizes his heart is a traitor.
It's agitated.
It doesn't want to go on. It whispers to him in the night, recalling the comforts of the past. It fears losing what it has already gained. Above all else, the heart is terrified of suffering.
And here, in the quiet of the desert night, we find the ultimate reassurance, perhaps the core emotional and psychological truth of the entire text. The mentor tells the wanderer that he must learn to speak back to his heart, to govern it rather than be governed by it. He is instructed to tell his heart a fundamental truth, that the fear of suffering is worse than the suffering itself.
The fear of suffering is worse than the suffering itself. Let's really linger on that.
It's profound, because fear is a projection. Fear is infinite, formless, and boundless. It can conjure 1,000 catastrophic futures in a single minute.
It paralyzes you.
Exactly. Actual suffering, however, is finite. It occurs in the present moment, it has defined edges, and therefore it can be endured. The imagination amplifies pain. Reality merely presents it.
And there's an optimism to that.
Well, radical optimism. The text insists that no heart has ever suffered when it goes in search of its dreams, because every second of the search is an encounter with the divine. The conscious pursuit of purpose infuses even the most agonizing pain with meaning, and suffering with meaning is no longer tragedy. It is transformation.
Transformation.
Ah!
That brings us perfectly to the central animating metaphor of our deep dive, alchemy.
Ah, yeah.
Now, when the modern mind hears alchemy, we think of medieval charlatans, dusty laboratories, and men trying to trick nature into turning cheap lead into gold so they can get rich.
Pseudoscience.
Exactly. It sounds like archaic pseudoscience. But our source material reclaims alchemy, elevating it into a profound philosophical framework. Why do the historical alchemists who are only seeking literal gold fail?
They fail because they fundamentally misunderstand the nature of the universe. They view gold merely as a commodity, a means to wealth and power. But in the philosophical lexicon of our text, gold is not currency. Gold is the ultimate symbol of evolution.
Okay, we need to unpack this carefully. Gold is evolution. How does a metal represent spiritual growth?
The text argues that absolutely everything in the universe is in a state of continual evolution, striving toward its highest state. Lead fulfills its personal legend, its specific role in the grand design, until it has learned all it can as lead, until it is no longer needed in that dense, heavy form.
So it's not a bad thing to be lead.
Not at all. But eventually it must evolve into something higher, clearer, more refined, which is gold. The true alchemists, the ones who spent decades staring into the purifying, blinding fires of their laboratories, were not just trying to manipulate the physical properties of metals.
They were working on themselves.
They were engaging in a process of mutual purification. As they sought to strip the impurities from the lead, they were simultaneously stripping away their own internal impurities, their vanities, their egos, their impatience, their superficial fears.
So the crucible is internal.
The transformation of the metal in the crucible was merely an external reflection of their own internal spiritual evolution, echoing Carl Jung's interpretation of alchemy as the process of individuation.
And the greedy ones.
Those who only wanted the gold were greedy. They wanted the ultimate reward without enduring the agonizing spiritual purification required to earn it. And the universe simply denies its highest secrets to the greedy.
And the most beautiful part of this philosophy is its accessibility. The ultimate truth of this alchemy isn't hidden in massive, dusty encyclopedias written in dead languages.
No, it's not academic.
The text introduces us to an archetypal Englishman who represents pure, sterile intellect. He has spent his entire life reading complex, coded books on alchemy, isolating himself in study, totally missing the point of the work.
Right.
Meanwhile, the text reveals that the real truth, the masterwork of alchemy, can be written on the surface of a single emerald, the legendary Emerald Tablet.
What is truly fascinating here is the text's sharp critique of pure intellect divorced from experience. It heavily privileges action and observation over academic abstraction.
The Englishman is trapped in his head.
Exactly. He relies on reason alone. He believes that if he can just decode the right symbols in the right ancient book, he will intellectually unlock the universe. But the universe doesn't communicate primarily through intellectual treatises. It communicates through the physical, sensory world.
It's like staring at a topographical map so intensely, memorizing every single elevation line, every legend, every symbol, that you completely forget to actually walk the terrain.
A perfect analogy.
You can be the world's foremost expert on the map of the mountain, but you still don't know what the biting wind feels like at the summit, or how the damp dirt smells after a rain. You have the data, but you lack the knowledge.
Yes.
The text insists that the vast desert, or even a single microscopic grain of sand, holds all the marvels of creation. Because a grain of sand is a moment of creation, and it took the universe millions of years to forge it. You understand it by immersing yourself in it, by holding it, not by reading a thesis about it.
Precisely. Wisdom is embodied, not just conceptualized. And this demand for immersion in the physical world inevitably brings us to the most powerful, complex force in the text. Yes. As the wanderer continues his arduous journey, moving deeper into the unforgiving environment, he arrives at an oasis. It is a place of profound safety, water, and life amidst a warring, barren desert. And it is here, amidst the date palms, that he encounters what the text calls the pure language of the world.
The encounter at the well. It is described not just as a typical romance, but as a sudden, shattering recognition of a truth older than humanity.
An eternal recognition.
It's the visceral realization that love needs no explanation, no justification, just as the universe needs none. It simply is. But this introduction of profound love brings up a massive, terrifying conflict.
The ultimate conflict.
He has found the woman he loves. He is in a safe oasis, protected from the tribal wars raging in the desert. Why not just stay? Why would anyone risk death in the desert to pursue a vague, personal legend when he already has tangible, immediate happiness right in front of him?
Because staying represents the ultimate, most insidious test of love presented in the philosophical framework of the text. True love, in this paradigm, never ever keeps a person from pursuing their personal legend. If a love demands that you abandon your highest calling to remain safely by its side, it was not the love that speaks the language of the world.
Then what was it?
It was merely attachment. It was ego. It was possession disguised as affection.
The illusion of possession. This is the tragedy of the oasis. If he stays at the oasis purely out of fear of losing her, or if she begs him to stay to soothe her own anxiety about his safety, they're both fundamentally doomed.
They're anchoring each other.
The text maps out the trajectory of this choice with brutal honesty. If he stays, he will be happy for a year or two. He will marry her, he will become wealthy, perhaps even a respected counselor or a leader at the oasis. But eventually, the omens will start speaking to him again.
And you won't be able to ignore them forever.
Right. He'll try to push the voice of his destiny down. The omens will fade, replaced by a hollow, persistent ache. And eventually, he will begin to resent the woman he loves, blaming her for anchoring him, even though it was his own cowardice that kept him there.
It is the tragedy of the baker repeated on a much grander scale, but this time masked as romance.
That is so true.
If you sacrifice your soul's primary mission for love, the love eventually rots into resentment because you have brought a compromised, unfulfilled version of yourself to the relationship. The woman of the desert in our text, however, understands this perfectly.
She gets it.
She operates on a higher spiritual plane. She knows that the desert takes men away, and she hopes it brings them back, but she emphatically does not ask him to stay. She becomes a part of his dream, the vital wind that propels him forward, rather than the heavy anchor that holds him back. She understands that to possess him is to destroy him.
I want to ask you, the listener, to pause and think about your own relationships right now. Look at the people closest to you. Are they serving as an oasis that traps you in comfortable mutual stagnation? Do they ask you to play small so they don't feel insecure?
A painful question to ask.
Very painful. Or are they the wind that propels you forward into the terrifying, exhilarating pursuit of your own maximum potential? True love does not demand that you abandon your journey. True love demands that you become the highest, most evolved version of yourself.
And becoming that highest version requires surviving the darkest hour.
The desert tests him again.
Harder than ever. As our wanderer leaves the safety of the oasis and nears his ultimate goal, the tests do not become easier, they become exponentially harder. The universe increases the friction. The text quotes a poignant desert proverb. One dies of thirst just when the palm trees have appeared on the horizon.
It is the universe testing absolutely everything you've learned before granting the final reward. And this friction culminates in the most mystical, astounding, and difficult sequence in the text.
The capture.
Yes, the wanderer and his mentor are captured by a violent warring tribe. They're facing imminent execution. To save their lives, the mentor does something seemingly insane. He promises the tribal chief that the wanderer, a mere mortal, can turn himself into the wind.
Such a wild moment.
He's given 3 days to perform this miracle, or they die.
It is a literal impossibility,
Yeah.
but metaphorically, it is the ultimate demand of the alchemical process. The soul has reached the limit of what it can achieve in isolation. It must now expand beyond the confines of the physical ego.
The wanderer is forced to have a conversation with the elements themselves. He stands on a cliff and speaks to the desert, asking for its sand so he can become the wind.
And the desert can't help him.
Right, the desert admits it cannot create the wind alone. So he speaks to the wind itself. The wind is arrogant, chaotic, sweeping across the globe, but it admits it doesn't know how to turn a man into the wind either. So the wind whips up a massive, blinding sandstorm so the wanderer can look directly up into the sky without burning his eyes, and he speaks to the sun.
And here we find a fascinating, deeply profound philosophical boundary regarding the nature of intellect and power. The sun is portrayed as incredibly ancient, powerful, and wise. It observes the entire universe from a vast objective distance. It knows the mechanics of the cosmos.
But the wanderer points out the fatal limitation of the sun. The sun does not know love.
Why doesn't it?
Because the sun is entirely static. It observes, it warms, it radiates energy, but it doesn't fundamentally change the nature of things from within. The wanderer argues that love is the singular force that transforms and improves the soul of the world. The sun merely watches the drama unfold from afar. To perform miracles, one must move beyond distant intellectual observation. One must participate.
Exactly. The climax of this existential journey is the realization that to perform a true miracle like becoming the wind, or transcending your own mortal limitations, you cannot rely on the physical density of the desert, the chaotic power of the wind, or even the vast objective intellect of the sun.
You have to go further.
You must reach entirely through the material world. You must connect with the soul of the world, recognize that it is merely a small part of the soul of God, and finally experience the shattering realization that the soul of God is inextricably bound to your own soul.
You are part of the divine.
You are not separate from the divine. You contain the divine spark. Only when the wanderer completely surrenders his ego to this universal current of love does the miracle occur. The wind blows with unprecedented fury, and he vanishes, reappearing on the other side of the camp.
He mastered it.
The tribe is terrified. He has mastered the alchemy of the soul.
Right.
He has evolved.
So he is freed. And he finally, after years of suffering and transformation, reaches his destination. The physical location of his treasure, the Egyptian pyramids.
The end of the map.
The end of the map. And here's where the text delivers its grand irony, the brilliant punchline to the entire cosmic joke.
Oh, this part.
He reaches the majestic pyramids, falls to his knees, weeps with joy, and begins to dig in the sand where his omens directed him. He digs for hours and finds absolutely nothing.
Nothing at all.
To make matters worse, he is brutally beaten and robbed by refugees passing through the desert. As he lies there bleeding, one of the refugees, mocking him for digging for a dream, reveals a dream of his own.
The twist.
The refugee says he once dreamed of a treasure buried under the roots of a ruined sycamore tree growing out of an abandoned church back in the wanderer's homeland.
The profound paradox of the destination, the physical treasure, the chest of Spanish gold coins, was literally buried right where the wanderer began his journey years ago, under the very tree where he slept with his sheep. He could have just dug a hole on day one and been rich.
This is where my mind fractured. Why? Why did the universe put him through the torment of the desert, the threat of thieves, the tribal wars, the agony of leaving the woman he loved, the sheer terror of having to turn into the wind, if the gold was sitting in his backyard the entire time? It seems cruel.
It seems cruel only if you value the gold more than the soul.
Okay. Elaborate.
Because if he had simply dug a hole at home, he would only have a heavy box of coins. He would not have learned the universal language of the world. He would not have met the ancient king who set him on his path, or the crystal merchant who taught him the danger of stagnation, or the alchemist who taught him the nature of evolution.
He'd just be a rich shepherd.
Exactly. He would not have learned to read the flight of the hawks or converse with the sun. Most importantly, he would not have purified his own spirit in the relentless fires of the desert. He would be a wealthy but fundamentally ignorant, unevolved shepherd.
The journey was the point.
The universe demanded the arduous journey because the physical treasure is merely the bait. The journey is the actual transformation. The journey is the alchemy. The gold is just a souvenir of the man he had to become to find it.
It all comes back to a single, beautiful Arabic word used throughout the text, maktub. It is written. But what we learn is that it's not written as a static, inescapable prison sentence. It's written as a grand, divine design that actively requires your courageous, agonizing participation to unfold.
And that leads us to the final, profoundly moving parable the text leaves us with, which perfectly encapsulates the theme of divine participation.
The centurion.
The story of the Roman centurion. An old father in Rome has two sons. One is a famous, beloved poet, and the other is a pragmatic military man sent to distant lands. An angel appears to the father in a dream and tells him that the words of one of his sons will be immortalized and repeated for all generations to come.
The father naturally assumes it is the poet. His verses are beautiful, they delight all of Rome. He is a man of high culture and intellect. When the father dies and goes to heaven, he asks the angel to hear his son's immortal poetry.
But the angel reveals the final twist. The poet's beautiful words were entirely forgotten just a few generations after Rome fell. The words that became immortalized, the words repeated by millions of people across the globe for millennia, were those of the military son, the centurion.
Why him? He wasn't an artist.
Because the centurion, despite his worldly power and strict military life, sought out a humble rabbi known for miracles to heal his dying servant. When he met this man, who was the Son of God, the centurion spoke words of such profound, desperate, unadorned faith that they echoed into eternity. Lord, I am not worthy to have you come under my roof, but only say the word, and my servant will be healed.
The provocative truth here is shattering, especially for those of us who prioritize intellect over action.
Absolutely.
The father thought legacy belonged to the artist, the one intentionally trying to craft something lasting. But true legacy actually belonged to the man of action who, in a singular moment of pure compassion, humility, and faith, tapped into the divine current of the universe.
As the text explicitly notes, no matter what he does, every person on Earth plays a central role in the history of the world, and normally he doesn't know it.
You play a central role in the history of the world. Yes, you. The listener, commuting to work or doing the dishes or wondering if it's too late to change course. You are an essential note in the cosmic symphony.
So true.
So what do you do with this? It is time to step out of the bakery and into your own desert. Stop staring at the map, demanding a clean, guaranteed, risk-free outcome before you take a step. Embrace the muddy, terrifying, magnificent waters of the journey.
Listen to your heart.
Listen to the language of your own heart, even when it stutters with the fear of suffering. Keep seeking, keep reading the omis, hidden in the mundane details of your life, and remember the greatest truth of all. The universe is not indifferent to you. It is actively conspiring in your favor. You just have to be brave enough to play your part. Until next time.